Breaking news. Police swarm a quiet neighborhood in Mill Creek and are now locked in a standoff with a suspect. We're live on scene.
She's caused controversy before, but tonight, the Utah School Board says one of its members went too far.
It does have a negative reflection on the board.
So far, left unchecked.
The social media post, they say, has put educators in harm's way and damaged a community.
It was a mostly clear day here across a lot of Utah, but still a few showers across the east. Coming up, how long will that chance for rain last? And also your smoky sky forecast for the holiday weekend.
From heat to rain and flooding, we had a record-breaking summer in Utah. Coming up, how all these extremes are part of a bigger, more concerning pattern.
We start Fox 13 News at 9 with breaking news in Mill Creek tonight, where a standoff is happening right now between a gunman and police.
Part of 39th South is closed near Highland Drive. Fox 13's Haley Higgins is there tonight. Haley, what can you tell us?
Yeah, this is a very tense situation, but I've been able to learn a lot within the last hour. But I want to show you the police presence that's happening here. Law enforcement tell us they have 3 separate SWAT teams who are here, about 70 officers, as well as a bomb squad from Unified Fire, not here for a bomb, they say, but just as technical support. Now, we learned that earlier today there was a man inside of a house near here. He started to fire a weapon. Someone inside of that home left and went to the nearby Mill Creek Police Precinct for Unified Police. He was able to tell them what was going on, so police officers went back to the home, surrounded it. They heard gunfire, and some officers actually went inside under gunfire and pulled out a woman, an elderly woman who was inside of that home. We're not sure if she was a hostage, but she was inside the home when these shots were fired. They took her out of the home. She was unharmed from any kind of fire weapons that had been fired. I'm told that she does have some injuries related to age, but not because of violence in this situation. Now, law enforcement has been taking their time trying to talk to this individual to get him to surrender. They are saying that it's a him. They will not say if there are any other people inside the home right now, but here's what law enforcement said earlier today.
We're trying to make sure that we can make the scene big enough that we can protect the public. And so that's why we're up here, probably a block away.
Now, there are a lot of people who are asked to shelter in place because we did hear another gunshot here within the last 15 minutes or so. So those folks are urged to stay inside of their homes, away from any windows, just in case, because this is a very volatile situation. We're not quite sure how long it'll go on, but as you can see here, police are definitely doing what they can to keep everyone safe. Reporting live in Mill Creek, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Haley, thank you.
A newborn baby, not even 2 months old, safe once again tonight after he was taken by his mother, who does not have custodial rights. That event triggered an Amber Alert earlier this afternoon. Salt Lake police say the patrol officers found the little boy with his mother, 28-year-old Madison Feltz, at the gateway. Police say the baby is in state custody. They also say a community member called police after seeing the Amber Alert after Feltz asked them for a ride to a bus station. Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown there on social media tonight praising the officers that found the baby. He went on to say, quote, their dedicated response led to the best possible outcome. We will now let the investigation unfold as to the circumstances of this case.
Tonight, leaders on the Utah State Board of Education are explaining why they wrote a letter of reprimand to fellow board member Natalie Klein. The letter says her social media posts incite threats toward teachers and students and have brought injury upon the LGBTQIA+ community and school board.
Fox 13 News obtained that letter today through a grandma request. Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher is at the State Board of Education office tonight with what was in that letter. Lauren.
Yeah, Kelly and Bob, so you've probably followed past stories where Natalie Klein has gotten in hot water with the community over some of her social media posts. But it's a recent post that this time the board said led to them taking an unprecedented action of writing that letter and sending it to Klein.
In a closed session Thursday, the Utah State Board of Education, we now know, told board member Natalie Klein she went too far.
Just as a board member, we thought it was out of bounds and not necessary.
Board Chair Mark Huntsman is talking about this recent social media post by Klein about a pride flag shown in a Davis County LDS Church Seminary building. Board leadership says her post incited hate speech and led to the school district taking steps to prevent violence.
The district they chose, and all in the name of safety and that, to up security in schools and around the seminary. It does have a negative reflection on the board.
Board leadership says Klein, who is known about her controversial posts about the LGBTQ community, failed to put a disclaimer on her post that her views weren't reflective of USBE, leading to a letter of reprimand that the board affirmed Thursday.
The intent of this letter was just to give board member Klein some, let her know of our concerns, and then also what we perceived as a violation to our bylaws.
Since being sworn in as a board member approximately 8 months ago, you have engendered controversy, frustration, and anger toward the board, certain schools, certain educators, and certain student populations with statements you have posted on your social media regarding our LGBTQIA+ community, the letter says. It later states, your social media posts convey an attitude of prejudice, exclusion, and scorn for a population of students that suffers disproportionately with incidents of bullying, depression, and suicide.
And it has not been helpful to have this divisive, targeting, exclusionary rhetoric out there that has been so far left unchecked.
Says Utah Education Association President Heidi Matthews. She says she hopes the letter of reprimand will help teachers as they work to create a welcoming environment in the classroom.
This was a bold step in staying true to their resolutions and then assuring that our students have those safe environments, that our educators are backed, and that our state board is being very clear that this is the expectation.
Now that post or that letter asks Klein to be mindful of her future post, keeping Utah students in mind when she's talking about sensitive issues. I did reach out to Klein through email, text, and voicemail, but have not heard back this evening. Live in Salt Lake City, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Lauren, thank you. It is important to note that the letter of reprimand is just that, a letter. It does not call for any other action related to Klein or her social media posts.
It is Friday night, so let the holiday weekend begin. Let's bring in meteorologist Allison Krogan with our weekend forecast. Hey, Al.
Yes, coming up in just a second, the weekend forecast. But first, I want to rewind to last night. We have reports of an EF1 tornado that touched down in North Salt Lake last night at 6:30. You may remember when I cut into the football game, it was this particular cell that we were tracking, and it ended up producing an EF1 tornado that did reach the ground. This was Redwood Road in 900 North. It moved to the northeast last night. This was about 6:30. This is that cell that we were tracking last night. So it dropped right there. We were seeing that red circle. And what we can expect typically with tornadoes of this nature, an EF1 is considered a weak tornado. This is a picture of that tornado last night. It's based on damage of wind estimates that are 3-second gusts. So usually 86, well, always 86 to 110 for an EF1. It can cause significant loss of roofs, broken glass. Mobile homes can even be overturned. Chimneys can collapse, and it can also move cars. So pretty spectacular, though we ended up with that with no injuries last night here in Salt Lake City. Now further south tonight, we still have a few spotty showers, mostly across eastern Utah, but we're heading into the holiday weekend and we're not going to have any more severe weather like that in the forecast. So we'll have some haze this weekend, patchy smoke at times, temperatures tomorrow in the mid to upper 80s in Salt Lake City, Sunday and Monday low 90s. Coming up, we'll let you know what you can expect for air quality here over the next couple of days.
Wow, Allison, thank you. Can't believe a tornado last night. All right, let's move on to COVID-19 now in the state of Utah. We saw another 1,600 new cases of COVID-19 today, as well as 6 new deaths related to the virus. More than 1 out of every 4 of those are under the age of 18. There are now more than 500 people hospitalized with COVID. 184 of them are in intensive care. Nearly 1.6 million Utahns are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Just under 8,300 doses of the vaccine have been administered since yesterday's report.
Governor Spencer Cox is pleading again for people to get vaccinated and mask up. In a series of tweets this afternoon, the governor shared data from Intermountain Healthcare in response to concerns he's heard about vaccine effectiveness and breakthrough cases. He points out that of the 42 vaccinated ICU patients over the past 30 days, 93% were older than 50 and 90% had significant health problems to begin with. Of the 297 unvaccinated ICU patients, 43% were younger than 50 and 39% had no significant health problems before. The governor also clarified some comments he made about masks earlier this week. He said, quote, "My purpose wasn't to imply that masks don't work at all, but that they pale in comparison to vaccines." Today, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson visited southern Utah to get a firsthand look at how health leaders there are managing the pandemic.
What we saw today was powerful, was heartbreaking, and entirely preventable.
The lieutenant governor toured the COVID unit and ICU at Intermountain St. George Regional Hospital. She was visibly taken aback by all of the patients suffering there.
And that doesn't need to happen. And there's one way to prevent all of this, and that is through vaccinations. And I'm heartbroken for the families. I'm heartbroken for our staff at these hospitals that they have to be going through this again.
Henderson expressed optimism in people's abilities to step up and heed the warnings of healthcare leaders. She also addressed the COVID-19 death of a Salt Lake County teen yesterday, expressing her condolences to the teen's family during this extremely difficult time.
If the summer felt crazy in terms of extreme weather, it was, and we'll show you just how much coming up.
We're seeing an economic renaissance in Salt Lake City.
A Utah construction company celebrates a major milestone. We'll explain their success as the Beehive State continues to grow.
I feel like their economy's in a position now that we can look at a strategy like that.
The Utah State Legislature is proposing a tax cut. I'll tell you more coming up.
And which COVID-19 vaccine is better between Moderna and Pfizer? What new studies are revealing?
Tonight, we're learning about a new COVID-19 outbreak at the Utah State Prison in Draper.
This morning, the Department of Corrections reported 8 cases there. While the overall inmate vaccination rate is 86%, the outbreak is in a unit where only 60% of the inmates have opted to be vaccinated. COVID-19 killed 18 inmates at Utah's 2 state prisons last fall and winter. There have been no deaths since January.
If you are going to dress up for next week's FanX convention in Salt Lake City, you may want to make sure your costume is face mask friendly. Convention organizers recently updated the COVID-19 safety regulations to require all attendees to wear a face mask regardless of vaccination status. That includes exhibitors, guests, artists, and staff. The only time masks can be removed is when actively eating or drinking.
Micron Technology is making the COVID vaccine mandatory for in-building staff at its headquarters in Boise and at its Lehigh facility. Today's announcement applies to all employees and contractors who work inside Micron buildings. Unless an employee has an approved exemption for religious or disability reasons, they must be vaccinated by November 15th or face possible termination. Salt Lake City just finished the meteorological summer. That's June, July, and August, tied for the hottest on record.
And that's really amazing considering it was also a summer of record-breaking rain and flooding in parts of the state. Going in depth tonight, Fox 13's Max Roth shows us how this summer was extreme, but it also fit a pattern.
You know times are strange when it's good news to see that some of the state is classified under severe drought rather than extreme or exceptional. All 3 of those words express Utah's June, July, and August.
The drought is very real, though it may have seemed like a joke for the folks in Zion National Park in June.
and in Cedar City and Enoch in July. And further east, Capitol Reef hit in August, with Hanksville starting meteorological fall with a crippling flood. All that water and still tied for the hottest summer ever. Here's a lesson to start thinking about how hot it was.
By adjusting your thermostat 7 to 10 degrees from its normal setting for 8 hours a day, you can save up to 10% a year on your energy bill.
And you can think about that another way. The hotter it gets outside, the more your air conditioner has to work, even if you try your best to be frugal with that thermostat. That's what these squiggly lines are all about. They represent cooling degree days in Salt Lake City. What's that? Well, it's a way that power company bean counters think about how much electricity you need to cool your house. Here's August, and that black line represents 65 degrees outside on average. That's when most houses are comfortable without heat or air. If the daily average temperature is 66 degrees, that's counted as 1 cooling degree day. If it's 75, that's 10 cooling degree days. August did not cost much for your AC. But July cost a lot. Add the degrees above average every day in July, and you get 649. The average is 500 cooling degree days. And June cost more than any June ever. Weather experts have cooling degree days figured out all the way back to the 19th century. So this chart shows the total number of cooling degree days every meteorological summer since 1899. That blue line shows a lot of bouncing. That's the actual number every year. The orange line shows the rolling 10-year average. From about 1970, the upward trend shows summers today are quite different from summers a half century ago. And this summer's total is the hottest on record, 1,491 cooling degree days. And even though August was cooler, our lungs burned with smoke. This year's August air quality was the worst August ever, and August was the worst month for particulate air quality in several years, including winter inversions. In the newsroom, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We have been quite busy here in the Fox 13 Weather Department. I'm happy to report that it's quite a bit calmer heading into the holiday weekend. A gorgeous night here in Salt Lake currently. 75 degrees here in Salt Lake with light wind out of the east at 5 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and talk about satellite and radar because we might still have a few sprinkles for some of you if you're up in the highest terrain this evening, but this is hardly going to reach the ground, not cause any problems. Most of our storms are off to our east. Chance for some thunderstorms into Colorado tomorrow, but if you're traveling, if you've got a road trip and you haven't left yet, if you're heading out the door tomorrow morning, we're going to be drying out this weekend. High pressure builds will have areas of smoke, so potentially some limited visibility there, but it's going to be sunny and warmer. Perfect for the pool this upcoming weekend. And then we'll have temperatures that are going to be pretty hot early next week. So something to keep in mind tomorrow morning here in Salt Lake City. Mid-50s, a very chilly start first thing tomorrow morning. Temperatures into the 60s by 9 a.m. And then by 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, you're back into the 70s. So overnight, Park City, Evanston, Logan, about 35 to 40 for overnight hours at 6 a.m. That's going to be closer to 40. Low 50s for Provo, Ogden and Salt Lake, mid to upper 50s. And then by tomorrow afternoon, our temperatures will be about 80 to 85 for Ogden, Salt Lake, Provo. And then the rest of the Wasatch Front will keep temperatures a little bit hotter for Sunday and then into Monday. So temperatures are going to be climbing just a little bit each day into early next week. For St. George, your upper 90s tomorrow. By Sunday, 102. Labor Day, 104. By Tuesday, 105. We'll keep it close to that through the middle of next week. And then it's likely that we're cooling down and seeing better chances for showers and thunderstorms towards the end of next week. Here in Salt Lake City, temperatures in the mid to upper 80s tomorrow. Close to 90 for Sunday, Monday. Mid-90s by next Wednesday. Then we're also cooling down by next Friday with better chances for showers and thunderstorms. Some chilly mornings ahead, so keep that in mind. Grab the sweater as you head out the door tomorrow morning to go for a walk or run some errands. And we'll talk more about what you can expect for air quality the next couple of days coming up later in the hour.
Allison, thank you. Still ahead, we continue to follow breaking news in Mill Creek, where a police standoff has been going for hours now. We'll have a live update for you coming up at 9:30.
everyone. The name Jacobson is synonymous with construction in Utah. For the past 97 years, the company has been part of some of the highest profile projects in the entire state.
Tonight, Jacobson is celebrating the completion of a project by which it will benefit directly. Fox 13's Todd Tanner takes a look.
Congratulations on this beautiful new headquarters.
Jacobson Construction is typically contracted to build things for clients, but Friday, the 99-year-old Utah company had a ribbon cutting for its own building.
Utah is a wonderful place to be right now.
Jacobson has built high-rises, apartments, and office buildings and done seismic retrofitting on the Utah State Capitol.
And as somebody who rode out one of those aftershocks in the Capitol, I can assure you that it worked very well.
Jacobson did the same at the Salt Lake City and County building and is currently working on the Salt Lake Temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
We're building the new primary children's hospital in Lehigh, and on top of that, we've got 40 or 45 other wonderful projects.
We're seeing an economic renaissance in Salt Lake City. I think it's integral, actually, that your headquarters is here in Salt Lake City and that it's on the west side.
While construction booms in Utah, it's a bust elsewhere, the pandemic playing a role. Of the states that added construction jobs since February of 2020, Utah added the most, 7,900 jobs, according to research released last month by the Associated General Contractors of America, which also says in 36 states there are fewer construction jobs today than before the pandemic. Jacobson CEO Gary Ellis says with good times comes the need for caution.
There's a saying in the construction industry that more contractors go out of business in good times than bad times.
That's because construction companies can overextend themselves and miss deadlines.
We are scaling back, and we're being very selective and making sure that we can achieve what we are asked to do.
Ellis says more qualified workers are needed.
Yes, we are constantly looking for really good people.
Todd Tanner, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Coming up after the break.
With abortion legislation taking center stage in the state of Texas, what does that mean for the state of Utah? We talk with people on all sides of this argument, and you'll hear them coming up.
Taxpayers deserve this relief. I mean, you look at those that are trying to afford a home along the Wasatch Front.
Here on Capitol Hill, they're talking tax cuts. I'll tell you what it means for your wallet.
And a new study on the different COVID-19 vaccines may show which shot offers the best protection against the virus. Coming up.
If you are just joining us this evening, we continue to follow breaking news in Mill Creek tonight, where police currently are in a standoff with an armed suspect.
Part of 39th South is closed near Highland Drive. Fox 13's Haley Higgins is still on scene tonight. Haley, bring us up to date.
Yeah, well, just a few minutes ago, we've been hearing flashbangs come from the home behind me here. The law enforcement is using with the suspect. We're also hearing them communicate with him, saying to put your hands up, put the weapons down, and come out so that they can talk with him. Now, also tonight, police are being praised for their bravery to save a woman who was inside of the home, and we do have video of this. Now, a man was visiting a home off of 3900 South in Highland Drive when gunfire started. He ran for help because we are very close to the Mill Creek precinct of Unified Police. Now, when officers went to the home, they did hear more gunfire, but they knew that this woman was inside, so they did go into the home while the suspect was shooting, they say, and they were able to get this woman and carry her to safety. Now, they did that, and tonight police are being credited for their bravery in this situation.
Officers who put their own life in peril to go in to rescue someone, thinking nothing of themselves or their lives or their families. They went in and rescued someone. And that's heroic, and that was some incredible bravery on their part.
Now, this woman was not injured from any of the violence here. Neither were police in this situation. Now, we're still not understanding exactly what is going on with the situation because it is still very active with those flashbangs that we saw earlier. But we do know that the suspect is in communication with police. We just don't know how long this is going to pan out and exactly what else is going on here. So we'll continue to keep you updated with any information as we get it. But for those people who are living near this home, They are still urged to be, we're hearing more things come out of here. We were told that they are still asked to shelter in place because this is a very active situation. Reporting live in Mill Creek, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Haley, thank you for the update. Now on to national news. Today, President Joe Biden continues to express his concerns about a new law in the state of Texas that bans most abortions. The U.S. Supreme Court declined to block that law. Now Florida is already considering new restrictions. All of this comes as the High Court gets ready to take up a Mississippi case that poses a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade next term.
So where do Utah laws stand? Fox 13's Spencer Joseph takes a closer look at how state lawmakers and abortion advocates are addressing this issue.
Abortion laws have come to the forefront of policy conversations around the country, with abortions in the state of Texas now illegal after a fetal heartbeat. While that decision has no legal impact on Utah, the topic certainly does.
As far as I know, no one in Utah is taking this up, but it is really interesting to see.
Representative Cheryl Acton of West Jordan is one of the state's leading legislators on this issue. She says Texas's law could be used as a model, but for Utah specifically,
there would be differences. For example, I believe the Texas bill does not allow exceptions for rape or incest, and I'm sure that the Utah bill, if we ever had such a bill, would take that into consideration. I think 6 weeks is controversial, because many women do not know they're pregnant at 6 weeks.
Representative Acton's bill HB 136 passed in 2019, but is on hold with Utah joining onto a Mississippi lawsuit taking aim at Roe v. Wade. If it were enacted, Utah would prohibit abortions from being performed after 18 weeks, except under certain circumstances.
First and foremost, abortion is still legal in Utah.
Katie Matheson and Alliance for a Better Utah have fought against stricter abortion laws in the state.
And the reality is that it's kind of an outsized coverage of this small group of people who are making policy that the rest of us don't agree with, far and away do not agree with.
According to a poll conducted by the group in 2020, 80% of people surveyed in Utah did not support stricter laws after being informed about the state's current laws. In closing, we asked both of our interviews where the state will be in 2 years. For Matheson,
I hope that Utah continues to protect the right to abortion.
And for Representative Acton,
I just hope that abortion law will return to the states so that we can have 50 different examples of how to show dignity to the unborn.
There's one more bill that has to do with abortion legislation in the state of Utah. That's SB 174, and it was passed in 2020. What it would do is it's called a trigger law. Immediately, if Roe v. Wade were overturned on the federal level, then Utah would revert to our laws in 1973, which abortion was illegal in 1973. Representative Acton told me today that at that point, if this does happen, they would start legislating further and decide what the right path for Utah was. But again, that's only if Roe v. Wade were ever overturned on the federal level. On Capitol Hill, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead, Utah lawmakers want to lower your state taxes, but by how much? Fox 13 News dives into the new proposal to find out what it could mean for you and your family.
Significantly cut taxes and still have plenty of revenue left to fund education, to fund roads and all that.
On Utah's Capitol Hill, lawmakers are talking tax cuts. A bill is now in the works to reduce your taxes.
But as Fox 13's Ben Winslow reports, some say the legislature can do better than what they're offering.
We thought it was an opportune time to give a tax rate to everyone.
The Senate Majority Leader will introduce a bill to lower the state income tax from 4.95% to 4.9%.
We feel like there are economies in a position now that we can look at a strategy like that. We did actually look at that strategy along with some of the targeted cuts that we did last year, but we felt like it just wasn't the right time.
It's the latest tax cut proposal on Capitol Hill. Earlier this year, lawmakers passed bills cutting the military retirement income and Social Security income taxes and restoring the dependent exemption.
There was an awful lot of people that didn't really benefit from some of our targeted cuts. You know, obviously if you're Social Security, military, families, you know, they benefit significantly. And those are important groups. Those are important citizenry. But broadly, there was a lot of people that didn't benefit. So we feel like it's important to address that.
5 times 50,000.
But Rusty Cannon with the Utah Taxpayers Association says the legislature can do better.
If someone had $50,000 of taxable income, meaning after all of your credits, deductions, and all that, a cut from 4.95 to 4.90, that'll be about a $25 tax cut. We just don't think that's meaningful enough.
His group is pushing lawmakers to cut the state income tax even more to 4.5%.
Taxpayers deserve this relief. I mean, you look at those that are trying to afford a home along the Wasatch Front, those that don't want to have to move far away from their family to afford a housing if they're young. You have senior citizens that have higher property tax burdens every year. We need to give them more relief.
Now the legislature will take up the proposed income tax cut when the 2022 session begins in January. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, not everyone is happy with this proposed tax cut. The advocacy group Voices for Utah Children says the money should instead be invested in Utah children and families. They say Utah is 49th in per pupil funding, 51st in child care, and have one of the highest rates of teen suicide and uninsured children. Their CEO says, quote, "We should be using the good economy to address these issues prior to cutting taxes."
With the Delta variant leading to a renewed surge in COVID-19 cases, it makes the decision of which vaccine to get even more crucial. We'll go in depth and compare which vaccine between Moderna and Pfizer is better at protecting you and your family.
And later in sports, as the Big 12 comes calling, the Cougars have a big game to win on Saturday as we count down to Arizona. But first, you know what Friday means, and that's the Preps doing their thing under the lights. Highlights from week number 4 in a bit.
So glad you're with us for Fox 13 News at 9 as you're getting ready to head out for your holiday weekend. Fox 13 meteorologist Allison Krogan is going to have your first alert forecast, and hopefully wherever you're going, it's going to be nice.
Holiday weekend weather. Well, for months now, people have wondered which COVID vaccine offers the best protection. It's a valid question. Now, new studies are beginning to show differences between the shots from Pfizer and Moderna.
Derek Stahl goes in depth tonight to explain why one shot might be pulling ahead.
At UC San Diego Health, the hospital system has been monitoring its 19,000 healthcare workers to track how well vaccine protection is holding up. In a new study, they showed vaccine effectiveness from March through June was over 93%. But in July, it dropped abruptly to 65% against mild symptoms.
You don't see waning immunity occur all of a sudden in 1 month, right? So there's some component of probably background waning immunity. But we think that there's 2 additional things that really account for this.
Dr. Chris Longhurst says the highly contagious Delta variant arrived just as California dropped business restrictions June 15th, and people started mingling indoors without masks. Even with the drop in protection, the vaccines remained highly effective against severe disease. No vaccinated employee had to be hospitalized. But Dr. Longhurst showed us something else that wasn't released in the study.
This is actually breaking up the Moderna and Pfizer data.
UCSD found Pfizer had a bigger drop in protection than Moderna. By August, Moderna's efficacy was 65%. Pfizer's was down to 49%. Their findings mirror others across the country. The Mayo Clinic released data showing Moderna's vaccine was 76% effective in July. Pfizer's was just 42%. Across several states, they found people with Pfizer were about twice as likely to have a breakthrough infection than people with Moderna. This week, a study in Belgium showed the Moderna vaccine produces 2.5 times as many virus-fighting antibodies as the Pfizer vaccine. So is Moderna officially better?
My suspicion personally is that we're going to find it's more about the dose gap than the vaccine itself.
Pfizer and Moderna both use 2 doses of mRNA technology, but Moderna decided to space their doses out further at 4 weeks instead of 3. La Jolla Institute for Immunology professor Dr. Shane Crotty says many vaccines work better with a longer interval.
After that first immunization, your immune system is essentially still learning about the target
for quite a while, and it's not done learning at 3 weeks. It's not done learning at 5 weeks.
He says the white blood cells that make antibodies actually evolve, and they do a better job with more time. Earlier this year, researchers in the UK showed you can produce 3.5 times as many antibodies from the Pfizer vaccine if you wait 12 weeks to give the second dose. The UK delayed second doses for its citizens, and scientists there are still studying the effects.
I wouldn't be surprised if the UK finds, with a 12-week gap between first and second dose, that both vaccines are equally effective. And in fact, the UK may not even need booster doses.
Dr. Longhurst wants to see booster doses for healthcare workers right away. He says even though the vaccines prevent severe disease well, their employees can't afford mild infections because it keeps their hospital workers away from the hospital. Derek Stahl, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All right, coming back to you, we just got this video in of last night's tornado that touched down. An EF1 tornado touched down Thursday night here along the Wasatch Front. The National Weather Service does confirm the tornado first touched down in North Salt Lake at Redwood Road in 900 West at about 6:28 p.m. It moved to the northeast through a mix of industrial and residential areas, and there was some damage to trees and some homes in the Cloverdale neighborhood. It reached its peak intensity along 1100 West, which is where Chris Luker took this video last night, where it uprooted a healthy, mature tree, and it also leaned on a wooden power pole. They are saying that this lasted for 7 minutes, intermittent track length of 2.5 miles, with an average width of approximately 150 yards. So thank you so much, Chris, for sending that video in. We are tracking no more storms like that for this upcoming weekend, but what we're watching for you is some smoke. So upper level smoke forecast for the rest of the weekend. We still have those fires burning off in California, so we're going to see that smoke impacting Utah through the weekend. So I want to go ahead and fast forward this. I'm thinking the second half of the weekend is when our best chance for that thicker smoke to arrive will be, and that will be mostly for the northern half of Utah through Sunday morning. And then for our air quality forecast for Salt Lake County, voluntary action from the DEQ with moderate air for Saturday and Sunday. I would recommend going ahead and checking that air quality before you head out the door, especially if you're planning on hiking, things like that, just because we could still have some higher air quality problems for that particulate matter. We have mostly dry conditions right now for northern Utah. A few spotty showers possible along the highest terrain, but bigger picture, it's going to be very dry out there for this upcoming weekend. Overnight temps about 50 to 55 tomorrow morning, so a chilly start by tomorrow afternoon, about 80 to 85. And then the futurecast keeps things very dry here over the next several days. So our next best chance for precipitation, days 6 to 10. So towards the end of the 7-day forecast, we will likely trend wetter than usual for this time of year. And quickly talking about stargazing here in Utah, this week we are highlighting Goblin Valley State Park for our dark sky park. It is gorgeous if you've never been before. Also nearby Hanksville had some flooding this week, and they are asking for community support shopping at their local stores. So visit Hanksville, stargaze, Goblin Valley. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. St. George, you are close to 105 Sunday into next week. So we've got a very hot 7-day forecast, lots of water, lots of sunscreen, cooler towards the end of the 7-day forecast. And here in Salt Lake City, low 90s Sunday into the middle of next week. By next Friday, we're back into the mid 80s.
It's hard to believe we're already a month into the high school football slate, and we start out in Lehigh tonight between a pair of 3-0s, Colin Orem and Skyridge. These two battling each other and the wind. Then again, Joseph Brandt may have used the wind to his advantage here. That's a 54-yarder. Not bad for a prep. Then the Falcons calling the special teams to make another play, this time with the punt block. Dalton Young gets a hand on it. Orem's defense gets it back, though. Sean New Jr. gonna pick the deflected McKay Hillstead pass. Only to watch Orange immediately return the favor at home, and then some. Chase Tuatagaloa flushed and forced into a mistake. Jace Doman is see ya at the Galleria. 56 yards the other way. You know what? That Skyridge has yet to give up a single point all season long, recording their 4th straight shutout tonight. Wow, 36-0 over the Tigers. Like Orem, Timpview facing a 6A giant on the road where Bingham was waiting, but it's the T-Birds showing the better hand. Lou Amavai hits Pokai Hanga through the screen door. The junior moves the chains and then some. Timp trying to add 3 before the half here. The kick, though, barely leaves the ground. That was okay, though, because they came out of the locker room dead set on shutting the Miners down defensively. Braxton Feely with back-to-back sacks in the third. Timpview doubles up Bingham 24-12. And head up to Morgan for a 4A, 3A crossover, entertaining Green Canyon. Early first, that is the tail end of a flea flicker. Cole Fife on the reception for the Wolves. Gives Green Canyon a 2-score lead. Then in the second, the Roadies driving, but the Trojans have it, intercepted by Robbie Cameron for a pick 6. Morgan cuts the deficit in half just like that. Right before the break, Jack Stevens, 10-yard ball to Kyle Baker. Nice haul to extend the Canyon lead to 21. The Trojans don't let up to make it a good finish. Caleb Neagle gets across the pylon in the fourth. The kids from North Logan, though, take it. Green Canyon holding on 24-21 to stay perfect at 4-0. The Big 12 rumors seem to be ratcheting up even more so for BYU. According to some sources, the Power 5 conference could be ready to invite Brigham Young into the fold by as early as the end of next week. Houston, Cincinnati, and Central Florida also in that discussion to jump ship at the Big 12 as Oklahoma and Texas plan to exit in coming years. Big news. Meanwhile, Kalani Sitake's group is focused on the present, and that's Arizona tomorrow night in Las Vegas. The Cougars defeated the Wildcats in 2016 and again in 2018, but those victories came before Jaron Hall entered the equation. Hall ready to maintain the high quarterback bar set by Zach Wilson a season ago.
I think you can just see that QB1 swag that people get when they're named the starter. Zach had it, and Jaron, you can definitely see that with him. You know, now that he has the reins and he's called like he's the main guy, he's been slinging that thing. So hopefully we can all put it together, and come Saturday we'll be able to put on a show.
His teammates, now you can see their confidence in him, that they know he's going to be taking that first snap, and I think they're excited to go out and play with him.
And we have a college football triple header tomorrow here on Fox 13. There was a top 10 upset tonight, though. Virginia Tech up 10-0 on North Carolina at the break. Braxton Burmeister for James Mitchell. The 10th-ranked Tar Heels did have a shot to match at the end, but Sam Howell's fling is desperation at best. One of his 3 INTs for the game. 17-10. The Hokies pull the first upset of the season. We're right back.
Finally tonight, the Utah Jazz have announced the release of their very first ever non-fungible token, or NFT. It gives you access to a unique experience with Jazz icons. These tokens can be used with virtual reality headsets for a meet and greet, they hired me because I talk so good. Hosted by Jazz owner Ryan Smith. How do you like that?
I like it.
Isn't that great?
Anything's virtual, I guess, these days. Stick around. Quick Cast is next.